Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is @ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.
Hello and welcome to this Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Plell, joined in the studio by James Hill, and we also have Tom Siegel on the line, as well as Sam Harley from Paddy Power, who's making his debut. Coming up on today's show, it's going to be a long one. We're going to reflect on another fantastic royal meeting at Ascot, but to begin with, we're going to start off with the Irish Derby weekend at the Curragh. Not sure if we have time for pleasantries today, lads. There's a massive running order straight in front of me, so we'll crack on with Saturday. The Dubai duty-free Irish Derby is, of course, at 5:15 p.m. Saxon Warrior is going to be facing some of the horses that also ran at Epsom, the likes of Hazapur, Knights Pold, Young Rascal, perhaps, who knows at this stage. Sam, have you got any betting on the Irish Derby at the moment?
Hi, Maddie. Yep. So the current market sits with Saxon Warrior as a short 1-2 favourite. Then you have the Epsom Derby second, DXB, sitting at 5-2. Then it's out to Delano Roosevelt at 8-1. Hunting Horn 10-1. Hazapur and Young Rascal both at 14-1. And Kew Gardens is 16-1. And then it's 20 to bar.
Okay, excellent. So, Jimmy, what do you reckon? Can Saxon Warrior redeem his reputation?
Yeah, I'd probably take him to do so, Maddie. He's short enough again. But this won't be as strong a race as the Derby. So I think it's a good opportunity for him to get back on track. I think he gets a trip all right. I'm just not sure whether we're going to see the same horse that we saw in the 2000 Guineas. But even if he does run a bit below his best, providing he just improves a bit from the Derby. I mean, DXB's was a bit of a course specialist who just stays very well. So he should be able to beat him. And I'm not too scared about the rest of the opposition.
Okay, Tom, do you reckon that Saxon Warrior actually gave his true running at Epsom and that's as good as he is, or do you think that wasn't the best we've seen from him?
I hope it wasn't his best, Maddie. I don't know. All those that do their shopping in the Dubai International Airport, Dubai duty free, I'm going to annoy them here, but this is a shocker, isn't it? To be perfectly honest, I mean, half of those ran last week and were bigger prices to win at Ascot, and some of them didn't. I mean, Delano Roosevelt's third favourite there, according to Sam there. I mean, he was tailed off at Ascot last week. He wasn't tailed off, but he was fifth, in the King Edward. I mean, if that's the best we're looking at, I'm hoping there'll be some supplementary entries because I can't see Hazapur staying. I think Young Rascal's got absolutely zero chance. DXB, I think I wouldn't be so dismissive of him as James is, but I do think he needs soft ground.
Is he definitely going to go, DXB?
DXB will run, yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
I don't know about and Saxon Warrior can't have been anywhere near his form at Epsom. He just never went like a good horse. If you compare his performance at Newmarket to his one at Epsom, then he was never going to win at Epsom, was he? He never showed the speed. He never. Now it might have been the track, it might have been the draw, it might have been lots of things, but the jury's still out as to whether he's really a mile and a half horse. He's had one shot at it and he's completely fluffed his lines, whereas back over a mile in the Guineas, he looked a totally different horse. So I wouldn't back him at 1-2 either. I mean, he'd probably win, won't he? Because there's nothing else to beat him, and I'm pretty sure there'll be probably 7 runners, and Aidan will have 5 of them. So
no bet for you then?
Well, it depends who runs. I mean, if Kew Gardens run, I'd be very keen to back him at a massive price. I thought he was incredibly impressive in the Queen's Vase. I think he stays really well, and I think he's getting better. So I'd be quite keen to see. But, he just ran last week. Who knows if he's going to run? We'll have to wait till the decks, and there might be some supplementaries thrown in there. Who knows? But at the moment, it's a total no bet for me.
Okay, but just to clarify, you do think, same as Jimmy, you think Saxon Warrior, if he turns up, he's the best horse there?
No, not necessarily.
No?
Not over a mile and a half. No. How can he be? DXB, right? They ran against each other over a mile and a half once, and DXB's beaten him 2.5 lengths. At the moment, the form doesn't say that. Over a mile, yes. Over a mile and a half, no. And you're asking me to back him at 2-1 on?
Yeah. Okie dokie, so you're going to wait a little bit longer. Sam, any thoughts on the Irish Derby?
Yeah, I've been in a similar camp to Tom. I just think I'm not convinced that Saxon Warrior stays the full mile and a half. And just sort of going to the finish line, it wasn't as if he was closing in on DXB. So I just think, if you were to back him at 1-2, you'd have liked to seen him a bit like Cliffs of Moher last year, closing in on Wings of Eagle, going up to the finish line. That would at least give you a bit of hope going forward. I think if there is 8 runners, just one each way at a big price would be Joseph O'Brien's La Trobe at 25-1. convincing winner of a maiden the last day at the Curragh, and came second in the Gallinule behind Platinum Warrior, who I think is also going to the Derby, because I think having won the Gallinule, that covers the supplementary entry fee for McAlford and Zerlong Yufeng. But I just thought he hung left that day in the Gallinule, so I'd just be worried about his genuineness. So Latrobe would be the one each way for me if there's 8 runners.
Okay, yeah. Latrobe's always been highly thought of, hasn't he, by Joseph?
Yeah, Camelot colt.
Yeah. Jimmy, there's all this thing about Saxon Warrior not staying. What do you reckon? I mean, Deep Impact, he stayed nearly 2 miles, didn't he?
Yeah, I think there had to be a doubt about him getting the trip before the Derby. I just thought he stayed the trip fine. He just didn't run to his best. We have had this before with Aidan O'Brien's 2,000 guineas winners. We expect them all to go on and become champions. Quite a few of them haven't. I mean, take Churchill last year. We expected him to go and win at St James's Palace easily. I don't think he won again after his Irish guineas win. So, I mean, whether we'll ever see the performance that we saw in the 2,000 guineas again from Saxon Warrior, I'd have my doubts. He might well, win the Irish Derby. I think he's rightly favoured. He's got the most ability in the race, but I certainly wouldn't be taking short odds about him.
Okay. Tom, one final question. Obviously, Aidan O'Brien, he had quite a few winners at Royal Ascot, but it wasn't as great as some of his big festivals can be. Do you think his yard are firing on all cylinders, or do you have any doubts about that?
Well, he says they're not. He says they're 3 weeks behind. Well, the only thing you'd say is that as far as the colts went, he had the 1, 2, 3 in the Queen's Vase, didn't he? And Huntinghorn won the Hampton Court by miles. So I think the colts are getting there. I think they've been miles behind, and perhaps that's a positive spin you can put on Saxon Warrior's chances. And like Jimmy says there, that he's undoubtedly the best horse. He's got the most ability by miles, but we're talking about a horse that just didn't do anything in the Epsom Derby. If he'd have shown a spark of brilliance, we know he's brilliant, but at no stage did he show anything that separated him from any other horse in the race. In fact, he looked worse than 2 or 3 horses in the race. So I'm quite happy to see him win by 15 lengths, and everyone say 1 to 2 was a great price. But at this stage, not knowing the field, not knowing what's going to be supplemented into the race, I think you just can't back him at that.
Okay, moving on and talking about not knowing, there's the Group 2 Gain Railway Stakes, which is also on the Saturday. Again, we're not sure of what's going to run, but any horses in there that catch your eye, obviously a lot of them ran at Royal Ascot. The last winning favourite of this was Alfred Noble in 2009, so it's been a race for a few shocks. Sam, I'll go to you first. Have you had a chance to have a look at this race?
Yeah, so just one that actually caught my eye in Royal Ascot, and if they are to turn him out again quickly, would be another of Joseph O'Brien's, Dom Carlos, by Gale Force 10. He's the first winner for the sire. If you look back at the Windsor Castle, going into the last furlong, he was near enough last on his side and ran on to be third. I just think he'd probably be a big enough price if he turns up in the Railway Stakes. Could be a good each way bet.
Okay. Jimmy, anything catch your eye in the Railway Stakes, or...?
Well, it depends which of the horses that ran at Royal Ascot turn out again here. If the Irish Rover ran again, I know some people will say he was disappointing in the Coventry. I thought really he was up against it, racing on the same side as Calix. Tried to go with him and he got slaughtered, as did most horses on that side. But his form at Newbury prior to that was pretty good. So if he was Aidan's number 1 or number 2, I'd be interested in him. I don't think he'd be a bad price.
Okay, final word, Tom.
I agree with what Sam there said about Dom Carlos. I thought he was a big eye catcher at Ascot. I would throw in Jim Bolger's horse. What's it called now? The one that won at over 7 furlongs.
Bold Approach at Leopardstown.
That's the one. Bold Approach at Leopardstown. Yeah, dropping back to 6 furlongs. He did exactly the same with Verbal Dexterity last year. 1 over 7 on his maiden, then dropped back to 6 for this race. I think he probably wants 7, but he might be good enough to come back over 6. But as the boys have quite rightly pointed out, until we know what Aidan's running, it's a bit of a guessing game.
It is. Elsewhere, do we have any fancies? Of course, we've got the Northumberland Plate at Newcastle. Cesarewitch winner Withhold. He absolutely bolted up that day. He's the current favourite, I believe. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, so just looking at the betting here, we've Withhold at the front end at 4 to 1. Then we've Amazing Red 8 to 1. DeBowie 50 8 to 1. Lagos to Vegas 8 to 1. Higher Power 10 to 1. Blakeney Point and Cartwright 12-1, and Byron Flyer 14-1, and it's sort of 14-1. The bar there, there's a lot sitting sort of 14-1 and above.
Right, well, my good friend Nick Watts, he's not here today because he's in somewhere in deepest, darkest Wales, but he did say that Amazing Red wins the Northumberland Plate, and that's all I need to know. So perhaps we're all wasting our breath here, but do you have a fancy, Jimmy?
Well, I'd agree with Watsy about Amazing Red. I think you have to fancy him a bit. I mean, he beat the horse comfortably, Golden Wolf, who finished second to the Duke of Edinburgh winner at Epsom.
Dash of Spice, yeah.
Giving him £4. He's always looked like the type of horse that could improve into win one of these big staying handicaps. So I fancy him. And the other one I quite like is Natural Scenery, who was placed in the race last year. She's £2 lower this time. I know she hasn't run for a while, but she does have a good record fresh. She's got a good record in these types of races as well. Okay,
and Tom, does the Tony Bloom factor come into this with Withhold for you?
Well, it's definitely interesting, isn't it? But look, he's 5-1. To me, it's a draw race. Always has been, always will be. I mean, a higher power won from a double figure draw last year, but he got a tremendous ride from Tom Quealy. I don't remember, he switched to the rail straight away and sort of got a drum luck. Before that, Trap 3 beat Trap 3 won, Trap 3 won the year before that, Trap 1 before that, Tominator won from Trap 4 the year before that. I know it's moved to the all weather, but I still think you want to be drawn low. Consequently, I'm not backing anything until I've seen the draw. But at the moment, I mean, Amazing Red was very eye catching the other day. Withhold clearly is a group horse running in a handicap, but you know, come the day and they're drawn in Trap 15 and Trap 16 out on the white, it's you know, gives them a thing. The one horse I thought was quite interesting was Sir Chauvelin for Jim Goldie. He's an old boy, but he finished second in the Duke of Edinburgh in Ascot during the week. He's got winning form at Newcastle. He stays very well, and that form when second to Dash of Spice could be very, very good. He beat a lot of good horses there. Walton Street appeared, Top Tug. You know, they're all in behind him, and he finished best of all after being held up miles out the back. I think he's, you know, look at all the others.
I'm a big Dash of Spice fan. Do you think he's like a group horse? I think he's got to be now, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at it, you know, held up well in touch. The third horse was with leader. Appeared was chase leaders. Top Touch was in midfield. Sir Chauvelin, steady start, held up in rear.
Yeah.
You know, he did really well to finish where he did. He definitely stays further than a mile and a half. I think probably 2 miles is perfect for him. And we all remember how good Yukon Glen was when he was switched about with trips for Jim Goldie the other day. I think he'd run well. I think he's a big price.
Okay, excellent. Moving on to Sunday, and we get another chance to see the Investec Oaks winner Forever Together in the Group 1 at Pretty Polly Stakes. Can anything get near her, do we reckon? Sam, what does the betting say at this stage?
We don't actually have the betting live for the Pretty Polly
one.
Stakes yet. It should be up in midweek.
Okay, no problem.
Wednesday, probably.
What do you reckon then? You a big Forever Together fan?
I thought she was very impressive winning the English Oaks. I just fear that soft ground might have been the key to her. Just another one from the Aidan O'Brien camp. If she turns up happily, who ran in the French Oaks behind Lawrence, I think if the ground, which is going to turn up good at the Curragh this weekend, if she gets the good ground and mile and 2, I think she could be the one to beat in it.
Now, a few postcasts ago, Tom, I remember you saying you were really, really impressed with Forever Together. Now you've had a chance to think about that opinion a bit more. Do you still stick by it?
I do, but I don't like her over a mile and a quarter on good ground, on fast ground. If it's fast ground, I think that's a totally different ball game for her. I think she's just a massive stayer. I'd like her over a mile and a half with with about 4 pacemakers and flying home. I think over 10 furlongs on good ground. Look, she might be classy enough, but it's a totally different ball game. We saw in the Ribblesdale what a change of circumstances and a change of ground can do for horses with Magic Wand winning by miles. So no, I think it's a strange one. Maybe she's probably a typical O'Brien filly that's going to improve and improve and improve, but I wouldn't want to be taking a short price over 10 furlongs on good ground. It's a totally different ball game to what it was at Epsom.
And what of Sea of Class? And of course she's got the older fillies to deal with as well. Coronet, she might turn up.
Yeah, Sea of Class. What about September? September, I'm told, is on course for the race, or on course for a race this weekend. Whether it'll be the Irish, could be the Irish Oaks, of course. She might wait for, but September's coming back. I was a big fan of her last year. The older fillies are in there. A little bit, lukewarm. Some of them. One I would throw in there is Liquid Amber. for Willie McCreary. I thought she ran a really hidden good effort in the 1,000 guineas. She was held up last on her side. She came through, stayed on really well. She just lost her sort of way going down in the dip, but she finished as good as anything, really. And I think she's crying out for this sort of trip. So I was quite surprised they didn't go for the Oaks or a race like that. So if she's been held back for this, if she's in the entries, she'd be one for me to look at as well.
Fantastic. Anything for you?
I think Forever Together will be hard to beat, but hopefully we'll see Sea of Class here. I'll be very interested to see how she goes. She looks very exciting, likes fast ground, got a bit of pace about her, and looks like she'll improve for a step up in Trip 2, which she's not really getting here, but I'd be interested to see how she goes.
Do you worry about the ground and the trip for Forever Together, or?
Yeah, see what Tom's saying, certainly about the ground. Clearly she liked it at Epsom. I wouldn't have thought the trip would be a problem for her. I think they'll go a strong enough pace. I mean, she'll have plenty of stablemates in there. So I expect a fast run race and for her to stay on best at the end.
Okay, fantastic. Now, stay with us and we'll begin our Royal Ascot review just after this.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Welcome back to the Monday Postcast, and as promised, we're going to review Royal Ascot now, starting off with the milers. We'll start off with Without Parole. Now, everyone was saying what an awful price he was, but of course he had to go and win after that, didn't he? Now unbeaten in 3 starts. Where would you go next with Without Parole, Tom?
Me? Well, he's got to go for the Sussex Stakes. No, I don't think there's another race for him, is there?
I think there were murmurs he could have gone for the Eclipse or something.
Good luck with that project. I think he's a miler through and through. He's got. I presume he'll go to the Sussex. I thought he did really well, didn't he? He chased a fast pace, quickened up. It's only his 4th run. What more do you want? I mean, I don't think it was a vintage race by any stretch of the imagination. And I think there's plenty of others that are better than the horses he beat. But he's getting better, isn't he? You know, everyone said he was the wrong price, but the punters didn't think so, did they? They got it right. And I think that his form at Yarmouth, the figures boys tell me it was off the charts, and the second horse went and won the Britannia by miles too.
Sensational style, yeah. Yeah.
So maybe we all got it wrong beforehand. Obviously, we all got it wrong. We did all get it wrong, saying he was the wrong price. And I think he's a really high class horse that will go very well in at Goodwood, provided, of course, the filly doesn't turn up.
Okay, Sam, what was your analysis of Without Parole's win in the St James's Palace?
Yeah, I think everyone wasn't sort of giving him the credit going into the race for what he'd done so far. He looked very straightforward, genuine, just did everything professionally. Only his 4th start, and I think he'll improve again. And yeah, I think St James's Palace looks to be the place to go as long as Alpha Centauri doesn't go there.
Yeah, sorry, that was his 4th start. He's unbeaten in 4 now, not 3. Jimmy, over to you.
Yeah, like Tom said, he did well to win Without Parole. He was impressive. Frankie Dettori chased Ryan Moore, who was making a fast pace, understandably, really, and he was left in front perhaps too early. So he nearly got caught. I mean, he only won by, half a length, and it wasn't a very good St James's Palace, so the bare form isn't that great. But he's clearly got ability. I do expect him to improve. John Gosden's horses generally do improve throughout the summer, and this looks like a type who could get better and better as the season goes on.
Frankel's often improve in time as well, don't they? So I sort of gauge we're impressed with Without Parole, but we're not going crazy. Moving on to Accidental Agent, of course, in the Queen Anne. Great story, that, but do we reckon he can sort of establish himself as a standout miler now, Jimmy, or do you reckon it's just a much of a muchness?
No, I mean, that was a very poor Queen Anne. I'm taking nothing away from the winner and as trainer, Eve Johnson-Horton. I mean, she's a fantastic trainer, but whilst it was a great result for her, I thought the race itself was very poor. Could have easily been a Group 2. And a lot of the fancied horses were disappointing. Lightning Spear, I mean, how he didn't win that, I don't know. I mean, he just doesn't seem to get a fast run mile. It must be so frustrating for Connections because he keeps getting so close and he just can't see the trip out. He's definitely, throughout his career, has had an ability to win a Group 1, but he doesn't look like he's going to do so.
No. Okay. Tom, what did you make of Accidental Agent's win?
A bit like Jimmy. I thought it wasn't the greatest race. Clearly wasn't the greatest race. We haven't had a great the older milers and miling scene in general is really weak. Always we haven't got any top-class miling sires bar Dubai, and most of them don't go on fast ground either. So we're desperate. And
then they go off to stud anyway, don't they, once they've done their 3-year-old season?
Well, some of them do, but whatever. We're desperate for some top-class. The 2,000 Guineas was won by a Deep Impact, who's running over 1.5 miles for the rest of the season, it looks like. And so we're really dearth of miling horses, and I thought that was pretty evident in that race. I wouldn't want to take anything away from the first or the second, but what it shows you is that the top class handicappers are no different from the group horses. It's simple as that. The race was run in a really strange fashion. I thought they went slow, and then from about 4 till about 2 they went bonkers, and it set it up for all those out the back really. To literally the last 2.
None of the fancied horses really came anywhere, did they? I mean, Lightning Spear, yeah, fair enough, but other than that.
There was a hidden eye catcher here, though, and I think this was one of the biggest eye catchers of the whole meeting, and one that I am very keen on for the Sussex Stakes. Beat the Bank for Andrew Balding. He never ever got a run. He never got a shot at it from about 3 furlongs, even to the line. It's a slightly hidden when you watch it again, but if you keep watching it from the side angle, he literally couldn't open up at any stage. I think he would have won by 2 or 3. With a clear run, and I think then we'd be talking about a proper horse going for the Sussex Stakes. I think Andrew Balding won it last year. I think Beat the Bank has good Goodwood form, and I would think he's a tremendous each way betted. I don't know what he is, 16,
we'll
20 to 1.
We'll ask Sam very quickly.
Sussex Stakes, but I think he's a really strong contender for that race.
Okay, that's really interesting. That's exactly what we want. You mentioned handicappers being able to, didn't mean to be patronising there, being able to sort of improve to this level. I'm going to throw a difficult question at you now and say, are there any handicappers that you think could progress into sort of Group 1 milers?
Of course, Settle the Bay could easily do it, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Settle
for Bay. Yeah, of course he could. You can't win the Hunt Cup by 3 lengths or whatever it is without coming off the bridle, without being a top-class horse. Simple as that. He's very, very good, and these horses aren't very good. He's done more at this stage of his career than either Lord Glitters or Accidental Agent. So yes, he's right in there. He's right in there with the rest of them.
So he's the one out of all of them you'd have your eye on?
From the mile handicaps that ran at Ascot, yes, at this stage. At this stage, yes, of course.
Okay, fantastic. Sam, have we got any betting on the Sussex Stakes?
Yeah, so the Sussex Stakes we currently have Without Parole at 7-4, Gustav Klimt 6-1, Wootton 8-1, Lightning Spear 8-1, Lancaster Bomber 8-1, Rhododendron 10-1, Beat the Bank 10-1, and Thunder Snow 10-1, and 12-1 bar.
Sam, what's going on? What's happened? Has it lost 6 points in the last 10 seconds?
Yeah, must have some keen listeners.
They're already on. So, Jimmy, Tom's already staked his case for Beat the Bank. Anything in the Sussex Stakes catch your eye?
Well, I mean, he's actually not entered at the moment, but I think after his win in the Jersey Stakes, they're going to have to think about supplementing Expert Eye. I mean, that was hugely impressive, much more like it. He's been very disappointing, really, since his awesome performance in the Vintage Stakes at Goodwood last year. And they're going to have to think about going back there again. I know it wasn't the best Jersey Stakes we've ever seen. I think if you take him out, it was a pretty average Jersey Stakes, really, like a lot of the 3-year-old races have been. But there's no question, when he's in that sort of form, he's top class. I would say, on his day, he's one of the best 3-year-old colts in Europe. And they've seriously got to think about supplementing him at a course where he goes so well at, they know.
Do we have a price on him at all, Sam? Suppose not if he's not entered, no?
I can't see him here at the moment.
Okay, no worries. Now, talking of milers, we couldn't speak about the miling division without, of course, talking about Alpha Centauri, who was just so impressive, broke the course record in the Coronation Stakes. Tom, come on, you've got to be a bit excited about her now, haven't you?
It was completely freaky, that was Maddie. Yeah, complete freak thing. I mean, if you just looking at the times, she ran sort of 12 seconds for every furlong. It's quite hard to do in the start, but so did, you compare that, so did Merchant Navy when winning over 6 furlongs, so did Ektadar. She ran the same time over 2 furlongs further per furlong as they did. She was running under 12 seconds nearly the whole way round by the last furlong. That is just ridiculous. No horses do that, and she won by 6.
She did it.
Clearly, she's a freak. Total freak, has to be. There's no other explanation about it. That was as impressive performance I've seen at Ascot. bar none, and I've been watching racing for 30 years. Probably Frankel I'd throw in there, but I cannot remember a performance like that. I thought it was just totally freaky. I was on threading, and if you'd have told me before the race threading would break the track record and get beaten 6 lengths, I would have said you were a complete and utter lunatic. But that's exactly what happened, and she was thrashed out of sight. I thought it was just ridiculously good.
I think you've wanted to call me a complete and utter lunatic many times. Jimmy, Alpha Centauri, anything to add to that? She was just magical, wasn't she?
Yeah, Tom said it all. She looks an absolute machine. I mean, that was a brilliant performance because she was up there with the pace the whole way. They were going very fast, just cruised away from them. Good fillies, you know. Fredding ran a terrific race in second, but she was just in a different league. As soon as she takes on the colts, the better, because she's just way better than any of her sex at the moment.
Okay. Tom, where would you go if you owned Alpha Centauri?
Oh, that's a question. That's a good question. I mean, I presume they'll take the Falmouth in first. That seems the obvious race for her, you know, against the older fillies. Beat the older fillies first and then go on for, you know, maybe into France for one of those, Jacques Le Marois or something. But I think she'll end up in the Breeders' Cup. She'll probably end up on Arc Day in whatever that mile race is there. And I think, look, she's just exceptional, isn't she? She's really, really good. Hopefully, you know, I doubt she'll go to Goodwood at this stage, but it'd be great if she did, because she's really good.
Oh, that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's odd because we talk about pedigrees and distances and all the rest of it. She's by a master craftsman, but she wants top of the ground. That's definitely key to her, isn't it? So they're obviously going to be making sure they get that wherever they go. Okay, Sam, any words on Alpha Centauri before we move on to the sprinters?
Yeah, so it was the performance of the week by a mile for me. I think it comes down to pedigree. I mean, if you look at her pedigree, the great Grand Dame Miesk, twice-time winner of the Breeders' Cup for the Nyarkos family. She's bred numerous good horses, and I think she was the first ever back-to-back winner in Breeders' Cup history. And I think Alpha Centauri is physically imposing, loves good ground. I think that's probably where she'll end up at the end of the year, and she's currently an 8-1 shot for the Breeders' Cup mile. But as Jessie Harrington reiterated during the week, she won't be running on soft ground again, so it would have to turn up good ground.
Yeah, there we go. And plaudits must go to Jessie, of course, now a Royal Ascot Group 1 winning trainer with Alpha Centauri. Moving on to the sprinters. Now, I think the logical starting place with this one is to just get some July Cup betting, because they're all probably going to clash there. Merchant Navy, maybe. Who knows? He might go off to stud now, might go back to Australia, I'm not sure. Blue Point, Harry Angel, Ektidar. Sam, who's the favourite for the July Cup at this stage? And do you see there being much change in the market in a few weeks?
So we have Blue Point at 7-2 at the front of the market, and then we have Merchant Navy 5-1, Harry Angel 6-1, Ektidar 8-1, US Navy Flag 12-1, and 14-1 Bar. Just on the change in the market, obviously there's doubts whether Harry Angel's going to make it now after his incident in the Diamond Jubilee on Saturday, and obviously doubts about Merchant Navy as well. Obviously the traders would have factored in those doubts, but I could imagine, for me, Blue Point will shorten up, and I could imagine him going off around the 2-1 mark on the day, so I wouldn't discourage anyone taking 7-2 now. And just one at a bigger price is Sands of Mali, who ran in the Commonwealth Cup. He was a big eye catcher for me. He came down the stand side on his own, and as soon as he realised there was a horse on the far side of the track, he was just closing and just got beat by Ektidar. But I'd have him ahead of Ektidar in the July Cup anyway.
Okay, what price is he?
He's 14-1.
14-1, that could be a big price indeed. Tom, how do you evaluate the milers? The sprinters, sorry. I'm rubbish today. The sprinters.
Just today, Maddie?
Oh, ouch! You're being mean to me today. I'm not standing for this.
Nice. I mean, very nice. No, I think Blue Point is the obvious. I thought he was exceptional. I thought he was really good at Ascot. What I would say is his best form's at Ascot, isn't it? So I'm not sure he'd transfer. I'm not sure I'd want to back him at whatever he is, 7-2 at Newmarket. I think the horse that Jimmy mentioned earlier about going up to a mile, I'd love to see Expert Eye in this race. He's by acclamation. I'd love to see him.
So Jimmy wants him to go up and you want him to go down.
I'd love to see him down in trip. I really would. He showed tremendous pace through the middle of that Jersey race. He's by acclamation. Now, in all his time, getting a Group 1 winning miler has been he's getting on now. He's never done it. He's had loads of top-class sprinters. Michael Stoute is not adverse. Green Desert and the old boys, Ajdal, ran in the Derby and came back to win the July Cup. This is the race I would love to see him in, because I think a really strongly run 6 furlongs would be perfect for him. I really would. I think.
Do you think he
stamina,
will?
I think he's mad not to. I really do. I think Jersey Stakes winners often have a good record back in this race because they go so fast in it. I get that the impression was that he might be better over a trip, and I do understand where Jimmy's coming from, that he put up his best performance last year at Goodwood. So maybe that's the way they'll go. But I think this is the race for him. I think he'd have a tremendous chance in this race. I don't think they're very good. The older milers. The only thing you'd say is that Sir Michael Stoute also has Ektidar, who won the Commonwealth Cup. Unlike Sam there, I thought he did really well to win. I thought Sands of Mali probably had, if you looked at all the horses that finished around Sands of Mali, they all finished about together. I think those up the stand side ran at a more even pace. I think those at the far side went way too fast. And Ektidar did well to win. Whether he'd confirm that form with Sands of Mali, I'm not sure. I think Sands of Mali on soft ground is a very good horse. But I'd love to see Expert Eye here, because I think he's crying out for a drop back in trip. And the other one we got to mention is Dreamfield. I thought he was really, really good in the Wokingham. I know he got beat. I know John Gosden said we were all clowns for backing him into 2-1.
Obviously not.
I'd reverse that, because I thought, that's what he's saying there is that he'd win only one of 3 runnings. Well, I can tell you now, if they ran the race again tomorrow, he'd be 6-4, not 2-1, because I think everyone thought he should have won, and he just pulled too hard and was a bit too keen and just
drifted
got done
across
on the line.
the track and
all those sort of things. I think, as I say, if they ran the race again now, I think he'd be 6-4, not 2-1, and he's clearly very talented too, and so he comes into it, because I don't think the rest of them are brilliant, to be honest,
so
I'd be worried about Blue Point at the track.
Okay, so Blue Point, Merchant Navy. Harry Angel, what did you make of this big debacle at the start of the Golden Jubilee with him? What do you think should have happened?
Well, in Hong Kong, I think you get your money back if something like that happens. I just think it was it was no one's fault, was it? You got to, it's the horse's fault. Let's be honest about it. It's not the starter's fault. It's not the jockey's fault. It's not the stalls handler's fault. It's the horse's fault. My feeling about him is that there's something up with him, and there has been all season. He hung right across York. He's a complete fireball at the moment, firebrand. I don't know what he's going to do. I doubt we'll see him again, to be honest. But if he did run, I can't touch him at the moment.
Okay, Jimmy, what do you reckon should have happened with Harry Angel? Do you think you agree with Tom? It was no one's fault, just one of those things?
No, it was no one's fault. I mean, the horse played up. What can you do?
He had some problems with the stalls as a 2-year-old, didn't he? I think he either refused to race once or something happened.
He like Tom said, he's a real fireball. He just wants to run, just like Batash. I mean, Batash has stalls problems as well, doesn't he?
There we go.
These horses, they just want to let rip, and I think that's partly the problem. They're very difficult to train. Very unfortunate, because I don't think we'll see him in the July Cup now. Who knows when we'll see him, and I think probably he won't be the same horse again. So it's sad, because on his day he was brilliant.
Okay, looking forward to the July Cup. Who would be your selection at this early stage?
Yeah, and I agree with Tom. I thought both the Commonwealth Cup winner Ektidar and also Dreamfield are horses to take out from Ascot for the July Cup. Dreamfield pulled far too hard, as Tom said, and Ektidar. I mean, people might say Sands of Mali probably wasn't on the right side of the track. There seemed to be a stronger pace on the other side, but in the end, Ektidar drifted right over towards Sands of Mali's side. Sands of Mali ran straight as a gun. Ektidar kind of lost ground towards the end, so I think he's definitely the best horse from that race. And Dreamfield too. That there's more to come from him. So the older horses, they're not a vintage bunch, so I would go with those types.
Okay, excellent. Tom, final word just on Merchant Navy. What did you make of the actual winner of the Diamond Jubilee?
I thought he did well to win. Because I think they went very fast, didn't they?
He is only a 3-year-old on Southern Hemisphere time,
correct,
isn't he?
And he did obviously weight for age didn't favour him in this race, because he's only a 3-year-old really, and so he was carrying more weight than he should have. So he did really well to win. But I would be. I mean, I'm not sure he's going to run, is he? The point is, I think he's back down to stud, isn't he, on Australia? So if they change their mind and they decide to have another crack, then fine. But he's won his Group 1 now, hasn't he? And I expect to see him shuttling back off there to do what they bought him for.
Okay, I sort of sensed in the debrief there could be a chance that maybe Aidan O'Brien, he sort of said, well, we'll see if plans change now that he's actually won that race, but who knows, we'll soon find out. Sam?
I personally think he was a bit fortunate to win that Merchant Navy.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, I thought he got the run of the race, got a nice lead through it. There were horses in behind like the Tin Man who got going far too late, and the third horse actually bound for nowhere. I mean, he must have gone across half the track. How many lengths did he lose doing that? So he was a bit unfortunate as well.
Okay, final word to you, Sam. Are you in agreement with the lads?
Yeah, just going back to Merchant Navy there, I agree with you. Just in the debrief, it didn't seem like things were fully decided just yet, and that there could be time to go for the July Cup. And Aidan's done it before with Star Spangled Banner, who actually took Diamond Jubilee on the way to winning the July Cup, who also came up from Australia. So I wouldn't just rule it out just yet. It obviously depends on the amount of time it's going to take for quarantine to get him back down there and prepared for the breeding season as to the final decision.
Yeah, of course. Okay, we'll take a short break now and then we'll be back with the rest of our Royal Ascot review.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week and you'll get a free £10 bet the next week. T&Cs apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Okay, welcome back to this Monday Postcast. We've covered the milers and the sprinters. We're going to talk about the rest of Royal Ascot now. Starting off with the King George, I think is the logical place. We can talk about Poet's Word, Crystal Ocean, Cracksman, all in there. Sam, how do you bet for the King George at the moment?
So at the moment we've Crystal Ocean a 2-1 favourite, Cracksman sitting at 5-2, Poet's Word 6-1, Saxon Warrior 8-1, Mazar 8-1, Waldegeist 10-1 and 12-1 Bar.
Okay, now Tom, I'm very interested in what you've got to say about Cracksman, because at the start of the season all of us were thinking, oh, he's going to be an absolute monster, and he seems he's got his eye on the ladies instead.
Yeah, looks like it. I mean, look, I didn't think he was anywhere near as bad as everyone said at Epsom, and I don't think he was anywhere near as bad as I think when you get these horses that are hyped up to the hilt, everyone expects them to win by miles. Now, John Gosden doesn't believe it. Lots of people don't believe it, but I think a mile and a quarter around Ascot is not his bag. On fast ground, it's not his bag. I think he showed that last year that a bit of cut in the ground is always going to suit him because of the fact that he just doesn't want to go early. Now, that I personally believe there must be something up with him somewhere along the line.
Well, yeah, because he's not travelling early on, is he? It's almost as soon as the gates open.
Something's upsetting him from the gates. Now, maybe as you say, that's his game now that we've seen the best of him. But I don't think so. I don't get the feeling that he's ungenuine. I thought he ran right to the line the other day against what is a good horse, Poet's Word. Make no mistake. I mean, Sir Michael Stout's trained him brilliantly, like an old-fashioned Sir Michael Stout horse. And let's not, those two were miles ahead of the rest.
8 lengths, Tom. He beat the rest.
8 lengths ahead of the rest. It wasn't as bad a performance. I think just because he got beaten. I don't think
Cracksman's done and dusted.
Definitely not done and dusted.
No, not by any means.
On a bit of give in the ground and a mile and a half at Ascot, or a bit softer ground, I think he definitely. I cannot believe Crystal Ocean is favourite over him. Put it like that. I mean, I didn't like Crystal Ocean one bit.
No?
In the Hardwick Stakes, not at all. I thought he was horrible. I thought he was smashing the ground with his knees. I thought he took ages to get over a horse that was tailed off in the Coronation Cup last week. I thought it was the worst race at Royal Ascot by a mile, and I thought he was deeply unimpressive in it.
So I love it when we get you on a rant.
So have him 2-1 favourite for the King George is mad, in my opinion. I'd much prefer Poet's Word or Cracksman.
Which one?
Look, Cracksman. I think he's the best horse in the race. Look, mile and a half. Look, if it was lightning fast ground, there's always going to be a concern. But for me, it's about him. I personally wouldn't back any of them. I'd back Waldegeist from Andre Fabre if he came over. But
Tom, do you not think we won't see him now to the autumn, Cracksman? I mean, John Gosden put him away after the Derby.
I think that's most likely, but his owner loves Ascot. His owner loves the King George. Let's not forget, and so. I would imagine that originally at the start of the season that was the plan, but with things having going slightly awry, to be honest, John Gosden's our best trainer by a mile, but I don't think he's been don't think he's given Cracksman an easy time of it this season, to be perfectly honest, with Epsom and then Prince of Wales's.
He was so impressive in France, wasn't he? He was madly impressive in that race.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too. Yeah, but it's such an early start to the season in France. I don't think they've got any good horses.
How does he go about remedying this fact that he doesn't want to travel early on? What do we just give him another go and hope for better, or?
I think, go back to last season and a bit of soft ground in the Voltigeur. Well, it wasn't really soft, and then at Ascot. No one was talking about it, was there? I mean, you go back to the Irish Derby last year, and he never wanted to go, did he, on fast ground? Whatever anyone says, you go and watch it. He took an hour to get warmed up. There's something about him that is troubling him. Now, on fast ground, I think that shows up. It probably hurts. Probably hurts him to run on fast ground, I would imagine. And I think on a bit of soft ground, we'll see the old Cracksman again, no problem. He's trained by John Gosden. A brilliant horseman. He'll know exactly what's up and what to do, and I don't see a problem with him bouncing back. I agree with Jimmy. I think the most likely thing is we'll see him back at the end of the season, running in the Champions Day or in the Arc, something like that.
Okay, fantastic. Jimmy, what did you make of Poet's Word, Crystal Ocean? Are you as negative on Crystal Ocean as Tom?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Tom. I thought that was a very... Well, it was just an odd race. And the second horse is he's rated 109. I mean, how can you make Crystal Ocean around 2-1 off the back of that victory for a race like the King George? The Prince of Wales's was a much better race. I know Cracksman, the way he ran was very odd, but they did pull miles clear of the rest. Poet's Word has always looked like a horse who would improve as he gets older, and that's what he seems to be doing. I mean, I think that's the case with Crystal Ocean as well. But really, he didn't beat much in the Hardwick, and I don't see how you can make him such a short price at the King George.
Well, of course, we got Cliffs of Moher as a marker as to what happened, because he ran in both.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he ran an odd race in the Hardwick. I thought Idaho ran a strange race.
Well, he was tailed off in the end, wasn't he? Idaho?
They've got to be better than that. That was a very odd performance from both of them, I thought.
Okay, moving on to the Gold Cup, which I think produced a really wonderful spectacle. Of course, Stradivarius winning from the French horse Vizirabad. He pulled up injured, but all systems go for the Goodwood Cup now, hopefully. Sam, I'll go to you first. What chance do you think he has of completing this bonus, or at least the Goodwood Cup first?
Yeah, so I think he's a rising star. I suppose going into the Ascot Gold Cup, it was sort of being matched up as the rising star, taking on the older performers. I think he did really well to win. Having taken the Yorkshire Cup already, I think the Goodwood Cup next, and then the Lonsdale Cup at York. I know they've said that the £1 million bonus isn't the focus, but obviously it's quite a nice addition, and I think that's probably try to stay in line with the targets they have to meet to achieve that £1 million bonus. A great week for Bjorn Nielsen.
Yeah, exactly. Tom, thoughts on Stradivarius winning the Gold Cup?
I thought he was excellent, wasn't he? I thought it was a really good race. I enjoyed disappointed it. With Auden's Order of St George, to be honest. I don't think he ever really went. He didn't really want to go out on the track, I didn't think. I think there was something, he's getting old now. Maybe he's not quite the force he was, but he didn't seem to do anything really that I expected him to do. Stradivarius was good. I love Torcedor. I love him. I think he's a tremendous chance of winning it next year. I think now they know he's a stayer. I think they could have, if the race had gone harder early on, I think he would have won. I think it was too slow a pace for him. If you watch the race again, he's coming back. He'd been second in another 2 yards, and I think a really strong test of stamina and a bit of soft ground, and he's a massive threat to all of these horses. He's closely related to Yates. I think he's going to get better and better. The one thing you'd say about Goodwood is that 3-year-olds get an absolute ton of weight. They get nearly 13 pounds. Well, they do get, not nearly, they do get 13 pounds in the Goodwood Cup, and they've got a great record when they run. I know people say they never win. I think only about 6 have run and 2 have won, and one's finished second. I think if Kew Gardens was to turn up or something like that from Aidan O'Brien's...
You like this Kew Gardens, don't you?
I do. I thought he was really impressive. I thought he was one of the most impressive. The way he finished off his race was really, really good. I know it didn't show it beforehand, but I really liked him. I'd never liked him before, but I thought that was a really strong staying performance. And I think he's a St. Leger horse of the future. And if they drop him, if they were to try him in a Goodwood Cup or or a 3-year-old of his ilk in the Goodwood Cup, I think they'd give Stradivarius all he could think about. I mean, I do get that Stradivarius is very good and he's, a stronger pace. 2 miles is probably his trip, but different kettle of fish against the 3-year-olds.
Okay, Jimmy, Stradivarius.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a fantastic race, the Gold Cup. And was a bit concerned that he might be outstayed by something like Order of St George, but he saw the trip out very well. Seems to love that fast ground.
It was great to see Vazirabad come over, wasn't it? Because for a few years now he's not, and I think he really made the race.
He played his part. No, Gold Cup seems to be a terrific race every year, and this was no different. I mean, the first 3 home, there was nothing between them. Race of the meeting, as usual. Order of St George, I wouldn't write him off, actually. He's always had the potential to throw in a bad one. He's a little bit like Cracksman. Just sometimes his demeanour is just not there at all, and he didn't want to go out on the track on this occasion. You could tell before the race that he wasn't going to win.
Good friend of mine said he always usually sweats before races, and he said he wasn't a bead of sweat on him this time, so that worried him.
No, he just wasn't on his game at all. I thought he actually ran pretty well considering how badly he went to the start. But I mean, he don't forget he's beaten Stradivarius before at Ascot, and I know he's getting on a bit, but he was putting up some pretty impressive performances earlier in the season, so I wouldn't write him off.
Okay.
Maddie, can I throw in one more before I go?
Because
I'm going to kill myself if I don't mention him. Chelcar for Willie Mullins, who ran in the Ascot Stakes. I have never seen a horse pull for longer than he did and still finish a race off as well as he did. He was literally pulling for 2 miles of that race. Ryan Moore, you never see Ryan Moore horses training at the reins with Ryan Moore. Chelcar was training at the reins for 2 miles of that race, and he still picked up and he still stayed on to finish 4th. That was his first run for 600 and something days. It was his first run over anything over 1.25 miles. I have absolutely no doubt that he's group class. Has to be group class. No horse can do what he did without being a seriously good horse. We know what Willie Mullins does with these horses. Now, he's owned by Australians, so I presume the plan is for him to go to the Melbourne Cup one day, but he's going to have to win a group race or be placed in a group race to get there. Yeah. And Willie Mullins might opt for an Irish race, the Curragh Cup or something like that to get it. But if he was to turn up in the Goodwood Cup, he is definitely capable of mixing it with the best stayers.
Okay, so from one spectrum of things to another, we'll move on to the juvenile races now. Signora Cabello in the Queen Mary, Calix in the Coventry, Shang 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 in the Norfolk, Soldier's Call in the Windsor Castle, Main Edition in the Albany, and Arthur Kitt in the Chesham. I think that's all of them. Blame me if it's not. Who were you impressed by most, Jimmy?
Calix in the Coventry. Coventry was the best juvenile race at the meeting by a country mile. I thought some of the others, like the Norfolk, were a bit disappointing in comparison. That was an awesome performance by him. I don't think he was racing on the right side of the track. He beat the rest of those on his side by a country mile. And I was also impressed by the second and third, Advertiser and Sergei Prokofiev. I thought they probably just got going a little bit too late. They were waiting to pounce on their side of the track, and then of course they realised that Calix was miles ahead of all of them, so they made up a lot of ground pretty quickly. And I think they'll be winning group races as well in the future. So that's definitely the race to remember. Yeah,
Sam, not to put you on the spot too much, I always do this to Binners and he tells me off. Calix, what price is he for next year's 2,000 guineas?
Yeah, so just before I give you a quote for that, just going back to Chelcar for Willie Mullins for the Melbourne Cup. He's 40 to 1 in the market for anyone looking to get on.
40 to 1?
40 to 1 in the Melbourne Cup.
Tom's counting his money.
How do you spell Paddy Pow? I'm just getting my account now.
and then, Calix for the 2,000 guineas is currently 5 to 1, and we have Sergei Prokofiev at 16 to 1. Now, from a personal opinion, I just didn't like Calix's temperament. Difficult to load into the stalls. Now, I do admit he did very well to win out on his own on the stand side. I just thought Sergei Prokofiev was given quite a lot to do, not to slander the rider or anything, but I just thought he's going to be the one to improve, and Aidan came out after saying he was happy with the performance, and I think later on in the year he could be the one. It'll be interesting to see where they go with him next. Presumably he could go to the Phoenix Stakes at the Curragh.
Okay.
I just think the 16 to 1 would be a better price than the 5 to 1 on Calix.
Nicely done. Tom, Calix, the performance for you, or are you going to bring out some big priced eye-catcher somewhere?
Calix was definitely clearly the 2-year-old performance. I wouldn't back him for the Guineas, though. I think he's a sprinter. The way he pinged the legs and the way he travelled through. I mean, he was in front after 2 furlongs, wasn't he? If he's a miler, then he's an Alpha Centauri, isn't he? He's going to be able to run. He's going to run very fast. If you remember, his dad didn't really stay a mile in the Guineas. He won lots of Group 1s, but he never won a fast run Group 1. Funnily enough, he was a speed horse, Kingman. I would be very worried about him staying a mile. If he stays a mile, he's going to be a wonder horse. I agree with what the boys said there about his temperament. I don't see him. Sergei Prokofiev the same. I'm not sure. I thought he flattened out in the last half furlong. I'm not sure he's going to stay a mile. I think Advertise is a good horse, but I don't think he's bred to win a Guineas. So I think we'll find, we'll find other horses coming into it. I would throw in one from the same race. I thought Vange ran a really good race.
Doesn't he? Yeah.
I thought he ran a really good race. He was the only horse. He raced up with the pace, and it was a very strong pace on the far side. And all the horses around him, Advertise and Sergei Prokofiev, came from right at the back, and he stayed on to be 4th. Now he's never going to win. He's never going to win a Guineas, but he might win a Gym Crack or something like that. He's a really nice horse that is going places, and Ascot didn't see him to best effect. But of the others, I liked Arthur
the Fillies.
Kit
what do you
most.
make of the Fillies? Oh, sorry, Arthur
rubbish.
Kit, gone.
I didn't like the Fillies race at all. I thought that was a
any of the Fillies races.
I thought Gossamer Wings was quite interesting going forward from the Queen Mary, but no, I didn't love the Fillies in any shape or form. I thought Arthur Kit was quite interesting.
Lovely story, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's a really nice big horse that's going to get better and better. Camelot, I thought, was one of the eye-catching sire performances of the whole meeting. I think we might see a few of those Galileo mares making their way to Camelot in the near future, because Huntinghorn and Arthur Kit and a few others, Athena, ran really well for him. So I would see him going. I think he's a big, strong horse that will get a mile well, and I wouldn't put it past him being a good horse in the future. I'm very unlikely he'll be a Guineas winner, but not sure we saw them there, because I think most of the ones from the Coventry were sprint types.
Okay, and we speak about pedigrees all the time, and you're saying that about these miler pedigrees. A lot of those, they are by very, very fast sires, aren't they, that won the sprint races, like Scat Daddy and that. I know Justified's obviously won the Belmont and the Triple Crown, but they do tend to be very speedy, don't they? Yeah,
he's an outlier, isn't he? Most Scat Daddies, are 6 furlong horses, really, deep down, and Kingman's going to wait to see what Kingman does, but he's from a very fast family too, so if Calix stays a mile, then he's going to be a brilliant horse, that's for sure, because he was super impressive, and there aren't many around, as I say. I mean, when you have Deep Impacts winning the Guineas and Galileo's winning the Guineas and everything, it just shows you that we're struggling. We either want, real sprint sires these days, or Galileo dominates, doesn't he? So I think there's
a sort of middle ground.
I think Kingman's very interesting, isn't he? I mean, I think he will get milers.
He's got
definitely
the class anyway, and I think
he's definitely
a
get
lot
milers.
of his
There's a gap in the market.
Sold for a lot of money and stuff
get
like that.
Get a bit of stamina on the dam side as well.
Yeah, exactly, James. Exactly, Jimmy. And I know lots of trainers. I bumped into a few at Ascot who were telling me that they've got lovely Kingmans at home. Now, that might have been because Calix had just won, but they all seemed very keen on them. And I thought, in the future, he might fill the gap that's there.
Brilliant. Jimmy, anything to add on the juveniles? Any thoughts on the fillies? Tom, not keen to talk on them much. Do you got any strong opinions?
I didn't think there was anything outstanding from the fillies races. Main Edition's obviously a very tough horse to win like she did. I thought she was beaten from quite a long way out, but she stuck on so well, like a lot of Mark Johnston's horses do. But there didn't look to be a future 1,000 Guineas winners there from what I saw. Okay.
And the Colts?
Colts, like I said, I just think that if you are going to get Group 1 horses coming from the Colts races, look at the Coventry, because it just looked a miles better race than the others.
Okie dokie. Moving on now. Any Group 1 winners in the likes of the Queen's Vase, the King Edward VII, the Hampton Court, or the Ribblesdale? Now, we know Tom absolutely loves Kew Gardens. Tom, anything else you want to mention quickly? Yes,
definitely. Magic Wand. I thought she was exceptionally good. I thought she did really well. I think the ground was all against her at Epsom. I thought she put up a tremendous performance to win the Ribblesdale by miles. I think she's equally as good as Forever Together, and I think she'll probably win the Irish I think she'll probably win
Someone's
the Irish.
after you, Tom.
I know, someone's after me. Oh, no, it's my Paddy Power account. Yes, 40-1 Chelcar. Yeah, I got that, thanks. I think she was really impressive and that she'd have a massive chance in the Irish Oaks on good ground. I think she's really talented.
Sam Laurie, RPTV correspondent, he likes her for the Arc. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no worries about that. No worries about that at all. I think
Ground?
she's really talented. Yeah, but obviously has to have fast ground. But she's really talented, and I think she'll. She's as good she's potentially as good as anything Aiden's got, including Saxon Warrior probably. But obviously, with I don't think she's as good as Saxon Warrior, but over a mile and a half she might be.
Okay, excellent. Sam, I'll go to you. Anything of the sort of middle distance races that you think is real eye-catching for the future?
I was with Magic Wand. Really liked the way she won the Ribblesdale. And listening to Aiden the last couple of days, she's going to go to the Irish Oaks and Forever Together to the Pretty Polly, and then he's going to let both of them take their chance in the Arc at the end of the year.
Ah, so she will go for the Arc then, if all goes to plan.
So that's the plan, which sort of brings us on to the Arc, which is one I'm quite keen to talk to, because I think it's going to turn out an excellent race at the end of the year if everything turns up. Obviously, things have been quite quiet on Enable.
Yeah.
There hasn't been much sort of media coverage of when she's going to return. Just one I've been keen to point out in the Arc at the end of the year is the French Derby winner, the Prix de Jockey Club, the son of Deep Impact, Study of Man.
Yep.
I really like his chances at the end of the year.
Have you got the Arc betting for us?
Yeah, I can call out the prices for you. So we have Cracksman at 9-2. Enable 11-2, Saxon Warrior 10-1, Crystal Ocean 10-1, Mazar 11-1, Poet's Word 12-1, Forever Together 12-1, Study of Man 16-1, and 20-1 the rest of the field.
Okay, thanks very much.
So yeah, I think I saw a quote from Derek McGrath, who contacted the trainer of Study of Man to try to get him to come to the Irish Derby, but as it looks like it's going to be fast ground, which might not be ideal for the Son of Deep Impact, so they're going to avoid the Irish Derby. But I just think wherever he goes next, and if he steps up to a mile and 4, he could half in price for the Arc at the end of the year. So I wouldn't put off anyone.
Another
something each way at
potential
16-1
superstar for the Niarchos family. Tom, any final thoughts on the Arc or anything else? Because we've been at this for ages now. We've gone through it in lots of detail. Not really.
I totally agree with Samson. I think Study of Man's an interesting horse. I think Waldgeist is an interesting horse for the Arc coming up, going forward. Looking back to Ascot, though, I thought I really enjoyed it this year. And finally, I like to say, is I thought what a great job the clerk of the course did there. I thought it was tremendous this year. No one was moaning about pace or draws or biases or this or that or anything. I think when you have a meeting over 5 days with all those runners and no rain coming around and you have to water, it's very easy to muck it up. And I thought he did a tremendous job, and I thought we had 5 days of very fair, very good, and very enjoyable racing. Okay, so finally, highlight of the week and one for your Racing Post tracker or an anti-post bet that you're looking at in the future, Jimmy.
The highlight for me would have to be Alpha Centauri. That was awesome, amazing performance in the Coronation Stakes. Horse I would take out of the meeting would be the horse who finished 5th in the Wolferton on day 1. That's Mirage Dancer. I thought he was perhaps unlucky not to win that. He didn't get the best of runs turning into the straight, and he stayed on when the gaps opened up, but it was all too late. I don't want to take anything away from the winner, Monarch's Glen, but he definitely looks like a horse who could be a group type, especially when he gets up to a mile 4. Okay, Tom? I've mentioned it, Beat the Bank for the Sussex Stakes. I don't know who's going to turn up, but I thought he was a massive eye-catcher in the Queen Anne. I know it wasn't a great race. And what was the other question? Highlight. Well, obviously Alpha Centauri. I thought Calix was excellent. And just on a human note, I thought Archie Watson's 2-year-olds on Saturday were exceptionally good. They're very cheap horses that he's got hold of, and he's clearly a trainer going places, and he will be having loads of winners in the Ascot from now on. Okay, that's a trainer to note then. Sam, any horses that you're looking at from an anti-post perspective, and Alpha Centauri, the highlight for you as well?
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to be slightly unoriginal and say off Centauri had to be the performance of the week for me. Just one outside that was probably Merchant Navy, just with the age difference. I thought he did really well to win, and I'd love to see him take his chance in the July Cup if there's the time for that. And then, as I said, Study of Man for the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe in October would be my one to watch out for.
There we have it then.
We can see it now, Maddie, can't we? In October we'll be going back. Do you remember when we told you Study of Man was going to win?
Well, we definitely will anyway. We've been through it all. Thanks for joining us. Before I leave, we'll just say our latest World Cup postcast featuring a preview of the final round of the group games is out now. And as always, if you enjoy these shows, make sure you rate, review and subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, whichever platform you're listening to us on. And make sure you join us on Friday again for the tipping postcast.
Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is the Paddy Power, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather or the gym.